Hello, everyone. Welcome to Made to Dream. I'm your host, Maya Chanel, and here we share stories from women around the world to inspire, encourage, and empower women and young girls to dream without limitations. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ms. Jessica Orcsik, and she is a performer, a producer, an entrepreneur, and a curator of artistic education. So, I am so excited to learn about the many hats that she wears, how she has been able to partake on her journey, and how she can inspire women around the world. So, hi, how are you doing today, Jessica?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's really exciting
Thank
too.
you for being here. Thank you. So, I just want to open up the floor for you to allow the audience to know a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I was born to two celebrities in Australia, like two well-known actors, and I talk about them for those of you that aren't from Australia. They were like the Angelina Brad Pitt of like Australian television. So literally from the first day I was born, I was photographed on the front cover of a magazine with "A Star Is Born." This is actually true. I can see the covers, and so
I
this
need
was
to
like,
see that.
yeah, no, yeah, seriously, this was like my life. And in Australia, it's like it's such a small town, so like celebrities of that kind of caliber are just a rarity. Like my parents actually met on a television show, so they were married like on screen as a on screen couple, and then off screen. So it was like and then they had a public wedding for fans. So this was like
Oh,
a
my
very different kind of
goodness.
unique world to grow up in. Um, and like through my journey though, because I grew up in that world, I was always kind of I guess I felt like a lot like an outsider. Like people never really
Mhm.
understood me. I was judged a lot. I was bullied a lot as a kid. My
Right.
dad is also European, as you would tell from my last name, and in Australia immigrants were especially when I was growing up in the 80s. And we won't say my exact age. Well, no, I'm going to say my age. Ladies, own your age. I'm 36. I'm proud of being 36. I look great, so I'm going to
Mhm.
own this.
Yes.
But yeah, but
I wouldn't even be able to tell.
so
I would have
good.
said about 28.
Oh, live for this. Well, I also think age is like a state of mind.
Mhm.
You can embrace getting older as a wisdom, but the youthfulness you do, it depends on how much you take care of yourself and your mind and your body.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I just, I struggled with depression. I struggled with anxiety. There was a lot of different things. And so I found my solace and my passion and my purpose within arts. So I
Mhm.
was a dancer, I was a singer, I was an actor. This is just what I love to do. And I had this big dream of moving to the States, which I was so excited to fulfill by the time I was 20. But as we
Mhm.
spoke about before we started, it was a crazy roller coaster disaster of a year when I first moved, and everything that did go wrong absolutely went wrong. And so
Mhm.
I gave up on myself as such. I kind of, when I moved back to Australia, I was like, I don't have it. I don't have the tools to be able to sustain this. This is not going to be good. So then but I never wanted to leave the arts, and I still had this passion. So at 22, I opened my first business. So opened a performing arts school, which I ran for 8 years. And so I would
Wow.
like, yeah, I had like a dance company where I teach young girls, dances but it was more than that, because even I think at that point, I started educating them about issues around mental health, about knowing who they are, about good body image, about, liking themselves. I think this is a big one for women, like actually liking who you
Mhm.
are and being unapologetically yourself, especially in what has, always been such a man's world in general. And unfortunately still is. We are shifting this, but it is going to take more than just conversations. We actually need to see the shifts in the balance of work and the way that men view women of power. I think that's the way that I'm going to
Mhm.
say it, as opposed to seeing it as a threat. It should be something that's like, exciting and exhilarating to see women in their power. And I know because
Listen, we can talk all day about that. I'm listen, that is my topic of conversation.
right, and it's like it's because it's ingrained in them, and I look at it like, I don't blame I don't blame individuals. I blame the society and the world that we've built, because this is what's happened from many years before this. There's like this inherent sort of opinion where men feel insecure because women have more power than them. Not all men, because I believe that there has been shifts, but still it's like, it's just not enough. It's not enough. So it became a really sort of big passion of mine, and also, I had young gay men that were coming out at that point that I was teaching. And so funny, I don't anymore, but I'm bisexual, but I hid my sexuality for a lot of years because I was, again, in the public eye, and I was very afraid of what people were going to say or do or judge because of that. So it was something that I also, seeing, young people in the LGBTIQ communities really struggle with their identity and not being able to have a voice as well. So it all started to kind of move towards this new space. And that also led me into working with people with disabilities. So my mom was a huge advocate for people with disabilities and an activist in Australia. And she used her fame for in creating a number of amazing changes, including moving people with intellectual disabilities out of institutions into like working society in the 80s. So I was kind of witness to this. And I think it was something that really inspired me to give people opportunities. It was like always this thing. I really wanted to give people opportunities, and specifically through creative expression, artistic expression. So the dance school kind of started it, but then I started to create these events that followed, which was kind of my step into production. And I created like 2 massive national dance shows called Don't Dis Disabilities Dance Extravaganza. And I took dance schools and dance companies and from around Australia. They all came and performed in this one location, and we raised money for dance disabilities and providing opportunities. So the first group was the Special Olympics from Australia, and we raised amount of money to send them to New York so that they could, basically participate in their experience of a lifetime, which was dancing on Broadway and going to see a Broadway show and like having all of this, which was just one of the most incredible things I've ever done. And the following year, we raised a money that actually went towards the film that I produced a few years ago. I was associate producer on, which the funding for went into that, which is classified as one of the most diverse films in Australian history, because it was about a deaf transgender who falls in love for the first time. So we invested the money that we raised from that into that film, which is now like out. So that led me into production. And then through this, all this travel back and forth from the States, I was like, there's no real opportunities for like internationals really that to have a really good guidance when they get here. Like people would get here and they would be listening to stories of people that came before them or but everyone's journey is so different. Everyone's journey is so unique. And so I really wanted to create a space where artists could come, and not even just now internationally. I think that's been the blessing of COVID for me, is seeing being able to now welcome this to people around the States and even local young artists through creativity, through acting, through dance, through filmmaking, to find their authentic voice and to have good guidance when building a career. And when I say good guidance, I mean guidance that's not just focused on their education as in terms of the art or artistically, but also their mindset, them as an artist. Who are they? What do they represent? What do they want to express? How are they going to express that? What support do they need? What do they need to work on in terms of how they see themselves to be able to prepare themselves for a very competitive, unpredictable industry? And then in addition to that, being an entrepreneur, because I'm running all these businesses, as you're hearing, teaching them about entrepreneurial business and teaching them what that means, because this is what artists do. We're ultimately constantly like, got our hands in like 100 different pies. And
no, definitely.
And it's great, because if you understand business, this is such an important part of the journey. And, you know, women in business specifically too, understanding how to have that power in business. And again, if all those things collide, I talk about it like the art, the artist, and the business. And when all of them come together, you're a real powerhouse that, you know, that can't be reckoned with. And that's what we need. So this is kind of,
we don't even recognize our own power. It's crazy.
No, we don't. And when you do, I think that's kind of the beauty about what I do in the education department, is I help people see their power. And when I see that light go off, you know, and you're like, oh, great, there's that shift, girl. Like there's that step into that space. And that is like, that's so rewarding. You know, it's more than anything else. So that's me. And I tried to summarize it because I have such a long, like so many twists and turns life. So
listen, I love this because it's like you're following so many different passions. And, you know, society may tell us like, listen, find one thing you're good at and just stick to that for the rest of your life. But I'm a firm believer of literally do what you love. And if that's multiple things, and do that. Like, you know, do what makes you happy. So let's start from the beginning. How was it when you came? Okay, so the audience didn't hear how you had to come back and forth from America to Australia a few times. So just so they can know that, you know, if it doesn't work out the first time, you don't give up. But let's go back to see, how was it overcoming different obstacles for you, coming from Australia and coming into a new country, a whole new country, different type of culture. And let's talk about, and especially having to go back and come back again and just keep starting over. How was that for you? How did you overcome those different obstacles, make a transformation within yourself, and change your mindset?
Yeah. So look, it really came down to and this is again what I teach, but it really comes down to knowing who you are. Because when I got here, I thought I knew who I was, and I that was at a certain point, but really I didn't. And therefore I'm easily influenced. You know, you can, you know, all of a sudden, as you're trying to build your world as an actor and a dancer, and you're going to these parties and people are drinking and partying and doing drugs, and you're like, yeah, this is my world. Not my
right.
You know, but you get kind of drawn into that. And then all of a sudden you're allowing, like I mentioned this to you, but I'm going to auditions, or I'm at places where directors are saying, yeah, you're here for an audition, but they're not. They're here to like skis all over me. And it was like #MeToo. And if you do this for me, I'll give you this job. And at the time I allowed a lot of different things, I think, that I would never allow now, but that was partly because I just didn't really know who I was, and I didn't really have that power. And that was kind of the first big thing. And I kept going home because running home was security. Running home was safety. Running home was, you know, like a way where I could feel safe. And but every time I did that, it was kind of living in these two worlds, because I really wasn't kind of learning from the lessons. I was just running away from them, if that makes sense. I wasn't kind of growing. And so that was the first time. And I, in essence, I'm very grateful of every time I've tried. And I say this to everybody, by the way, failure is success. As soon as you start to look at the mistakes and the fails and the fall downs and anything else you want to call it, as something that's a positive shift in your life, you'll start to feel the shifts in your life. Because everything now that happens, even if it's bad, like I'm having a bit of a domestic with my partner in Australia at the moment. And one of my girlfriends said, I'm so sorry this is happening. And I said, no, I'm not sorry about this, because this is supposed to lead me to a space. This is supposed to happen so that I can learn from it and grow from it. Otherwise it wouldn't be happening. There's a lesson in this about who I am, and there's a lesson in this about who he is, and there's a lesson in this about where we're going to go. And
most definitely,
it's such a good way to look at life. So that was the first time. And the culture for me was something I actually embraced. I think I understood American culture far better than I understood Australian culture, because again, like Hollywood and this kind of glam life was how I grew up. But in Australia, it's not normal. So people will tear you down. It's something called tall poppy syndrome. People will tear you down a lot quicker because they're threatened by fame, by success, by, big personalities, and they almost, there's this whole thing about, oh, you'll be right. Or, just no one wants to rock the boat. Don't say when you have a problem, which is one of the things I love about living in the US. Now, whether or not it's good that everyone expresses their views on all their problems, like we see it in the political climate, let's not talk about that. It's not always good when everyone does, but I'm grateful that people do, because at least then you can have conversations where someone's like, no, I'm not happy with that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. And I'm like, oh,
no, definitely.
Yes, this is a good thing. I like the fact.
I love that. I love when people are open to
positive
disagreements, but positive disagreements, because there are always situations where someone wants you to agree with them, and if you disagree, it's like, oh no, like you're literally like, just get away from me. Like, come on, be open to different mindsets, different thoughts, because everyone is not the same for a reason. Like, be open to that. Just because someone doesn't agree with you, like you're so used to having a yes person, you need those no people in your life in order for you to be able to grow.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think it's an integral part of growth, because when people challenge you and, I heard this I was reading this morning about this incredible thing about, vulnerability. I'm a big advocate for vulnerability. I believe it is so necessary, because I think when people are vulnerable, people inherently are open to hearing criticism, and are more receptive to change. And
definitely.
I think this is where the world needs to be. It's to be more vulnerable. And I think where we have issues with conflict is not because of people having differences of opinion. I think it's the problem with vulnerability, because if you have a difference of opinion and you're not vulnerable and open to hearing anything else, then you're not open to accepting any fault on your own or any criticism of your own. It becomes blaming, and it becomes the other person's stuff. Whereas like if you're open to this, then that allows room for us to grow and work together towards a better place of change, where there's compassion and understanding, and my favorite other word, empathy, which I believe this world really needs to have a lot more of. So like this has been a big kind of like journey for me to learn. And to be honest, if I was going to talk about myself, I did not have empathy for myself. I was not vulnerable. I was like a bunch of things. So when I was trying to live in a world that at the same time was embracing like so much of my sorry, I apologize. I have my cat that's like COVID live, right? My cat is like trying to be a part of the podcast.
Oh my goodness.
But when those things aren't around, you're resistant to so much. So you're allowing people to treat you badly when you shouldn't. You're allowing yourself to go into places with people that you shouldn't. You're allowing a lot of stuff to happen. So every time I moved, going back to that question, every time I moved here, it was because I was running away from something, or I wasn't willing to face something, and I wasn't willing to be vulnerable, and I wasn't really willing to change. I would just kind of come and do this. And it's been that way. And I don't think in all honesty until COVID, where I was faced with a final choice, go home like so many of my fellow Aussies have. And because the grass is greener, which it's not, and everything's safer, which it's not. It's just this mindset that they believe that it is, and to be honest, also like is being in this safe island of a country really going to be the best serving purpose for me? No, because what happens is when I go home, whilst I love the people, and I have amazing friends and family, and my partner, of course, I become really complacent, and I let other people's dreams and their energy kind of override me, because it's easier to do that. Whereas I think the best culture shift for me was embracing the idea that America helps me step into my power, and America gives me a platform that I really love, and people kind of go, no, we hear you. We like what you're saying. We want to hear more. Tell us more. Tell us more. And I feel like, oh, wow, I have a voice here. And even though the world is so shaky, even though our country, I'm going to say our country is so shaky at the moment with so much stuff. I believe we're part of a big revolution, and the world will always look to America because it is part of that, in terms of what we do next as to what the future will be, because it's always been that way. And would I rather be here on this side of that than in the safety of the backyard where nothing happens? Yeah, I would. Take me to the mess, take me to the chaos, take me to the, because that's where you thrive. That's how you know how strong you are. And every other time in my life, I've run home for that safety and that security. But I now know
you're
that
comfortable with, what you're comfortable with, what you're used to. And it's like, I spoke about this with someone before about basically identities and having to move to be able to create a new identity for yourself, because that area that you're in Australia, you're known as this person. And as much as you try to change, that society still is like, no, I'm gonna keep you in this box and that's who you are. Stop trying to get out, you know? But then you get away and you're like, you know what? Wow, this is really who I am. I'm actually able to sit here and reflect and discover and be me without someone trying to say, no, stay in this box. This is who you are. This is who you are going to be for the rest of your life.
So resonates with me what you just said. This is exactly what it is. And people will keep trying to put you in your box because that's the way that that society is built. And that's okay if you're happy to be there, but I have more work to do. I talk about the work that I do. I have more work to do. I want to change the world. I want to change the world through art. I want to change the world through creativity. I want to do so many different things. In fact, I rephrase this. I am going to do so many of these different things.
Yes.
So if I am going to do them, I want to be in the place that's going to make me my best self so that I can do that. And I tell everyone that's listening, finding that place is the hard part. Where is that place? And for some people, that might be Australia. For some people, that might be the US. For some people, that might be the UK. It doesn't really matter. For some people, that might be multiple places, because I don't feel like LA is going to be the only place I ever live. I've been like sort of, like I'm a worldly person. I like to move around. I like to experience new things, because that adrenaline of being in a new place and self-discovery and learning, I'm like, yes,
it kind of kicks you in your butt, and it's just like, okay, like, come on, you gotta push harder, you gotta think, you gotta do more. Like, you can't be comfortable.
Exactly. And as soon as you start enjoying being comfortable in the uncomfortable, like as soon as that moment happens, you're like, oh, this is a game changer. You're like, oh, great, this is a struggle. Okay, I'm having or even just like the emotions I could talk about, like, okay, wow, yeah, I'm having a lot of emotions today. I'm feeling this today. Great, I'm just going to feel this today, and that's okay. And then tomorrow I'm going to feel what I feel tomorrow. And then the day after I'm going to feel and people start to look at me going, and you're okay with that? And yeah, because that's life. I'm okay with feeling these things every day. Whereas I think that's where the danger is, when you're trying to control how you feel, to be either happy all the time, or to feel like you're complete all the time, or you have all the answers all the time, because that's when you're not actually growing. That's when you are resisting. Because you're trying to actually control your progress, as opposed to just living your progress, like being present in that experience. So
no, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
So being in the many different locations that you've been in, Australia, you've been in different states around the United States. How has your version of your definition of success changed over time? Especially different cultures, or different areas, and changing who Jessica is.
I love that. That is a really, really good question. Do you know, I think in my mind, once upon a time, I thought success was validation. That's what I'm going to say. When everyone recognizes that you're good and tells you that you're good. you know, like, and whether that be for what I do as a performer, whether that be for what I do as in production, or even as an educator. And whilst I love what I do, and of course everyone loves hearing that they enjoyed it, or they love watching a performance, or they loved hearing you speak, or they think you're an amazing teacher, that's a wonderful thing to hear. You never get tired of it, and that's great. That's not success. That's just validation. Yeah.
Right.
And when you start to find a validation when you don't really need any more validation, and the validation is in with yourself, that to me is when you find success. Because success is just truly recognizing that you have and can be and can do anything. Because when you kind of have that, you're like, oh damn, I can. I mean, I can. I like the idea, because then success is just who you are in yourself and all the incredible things that you're going to do. And it's not
totally
just
agree.
the one. Yeah. And it's not just that one thing. And I love that you said the one thing before, because I was like, you know, live a life, do as much as you can in it.
Right.
So
listen, I tell people all the time, even if you want to publish your own magazine, but no one buys it, you can always say for the rest of your life that you published a magazine. No matter how successful, that's success in itself, because not everyone is able to do that, or not everyone will do that, just because of the fear of people, someone else's validation, someone else buying your copy to validate, wow, this is what is like great, you know what I mean? And I'm a strong believer of, if you're sure in yourself, you will definitely know what it is that you want, because someone can sit here and tell you, you'll never be great, you'll never do anything, you'll never be successful in life, but their projections on you have to make that become true. Like, no one can make that become true unless it's yourself. And if you let someone tell you that and you actually let it happen, then that's on you. That is on you.
Like, I want to do a clap symbol. Yes, like Zoom, the Zoom things. No, so true. No one, this was something I even said today, and this has been something it's been an aha moment light bulb, but no one can even make you feel something unless you allow them to.
Right.
This idea that, oh, so-and-so's done this to me and so-and-so did this to me. And this has been a really interesting lesson. And it's literally, I'm talking the last 48 hours aha moment. And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you can't make me feel anything that I don't want to feel. I choose to feel it. Right. You can say something, and sure, it might activate an emotion, but then my response to that emotion, my reaction to that emotion, that's what it is. So I go, do I want to feel this right now? I'm going to choose to feel this right now, or I'm going to choose not to feel this. I'm going to process it, because this is ultimately more about you and your issues and your insecurities and your stuff that you're wanting to project onto me. And it's not about me. So I'm going to choose to put that little wall there and go, well, thank you for your feedback. And I will, I'm going to move this way.
Right.
And
thank
I love
you,
that.
but I choose to do something different. So
yeah,
take it or leave it.
Yeah, I choose to not agree with that, but thank you. Thank you. Again, I go, thank you for your feedback.
Constructive criticism. However, I will be going in a different direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So what would you say are some of the things that you wish you knew before you started that would inspire and encourage women to just dream without limitations? Some of the things that you had to go through and you realized, like, wow, you know what? Like, I should have known this like a long time ago. It would have gotten me further back then.
Oh, and I know this sounds cliche. That's the word I'm going to use. I was going to use corny. I said no, because this is not corny. This is just cliche. But it is. I really do wish that I was enough, that I am enough. Yeah, it is something I've been really saying to myself every single day. You are enough. Who you are is enough. You don't need to be or say or do or act anything other than who you are. And when you really believe that in yourself, not say it, because you say it, you know, like you can go, yeah, no, I think I'm this. Even using the dialogue is a big one, ladies. Dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I think I deserve, I would like
Right.
to, everything is kind of out of your reach. Everything is over
Right.
here, you know, whereas
Mm-hmm.
I am,
Mm-hmm.
anything that's active, I am, this is like, make it a part of your active dialogue. I am doing this. I am
Mm-hmm.
this person. I am enough. I am
Right.
talented. I am powerful. I am beautiful. I am, talented. I am intelligent. I am all these things. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to try and be anyone else to feel this, because you can keep doing this. And I've honestly tried to be so many different people. I've tried
Mm-hmm.
to be so many different people, because really deep down for a long time, I didn't think that I was enough. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if I were being honest, I'm not going to say that this is like, I've totally turned the corner and I never have these doubts in myself, because I still do. But I'm at this point right now where I am at a shift in my life, where I've really
Mm-hmm.
started to step into this space of going, no, I am enough, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
worthy of this. And I'm going to have this, and I'm going to do, and I
Right.
am this. And even using that feels like, I mean, I'm giving you, and I'm sure you can feel the energy right now, but I'm like, yes, like I feel like the vibrations at this higher
Mm-hmm.
frequency, because I realize that is a thing we don't do enough, because quite often it's easier for us to put the dream, or to put the wants, or the goals, or the aspirations, or anything, or the positive affirmation on yourself over here, because it gives you permission then, when it doesn't work or something fails, for
Mm-hmm.
you to go, well, I wasn't really there anyway. It gives you kind of that
Right.
excuse to fail, that permission to fail.
Right.
Whereas if all of a sudden, if that wasn't a part of your life, and you could just embrace, that energy of just being
Mm-hmm.
who you are and being enough, wow. Like it feels exhilarating. It's like, it's
Right.
awesome. So,
Listen, we could talk on and on and on and on and on about this, because I'm such a firm believer of, from the beginning, society, tries to project on girls and women that, we aren't enough. We should just like settle down, settle for this, and that's what it's going to be. So we can talk every day about this, and I'm sure the listeners, the audience is going to hate me right now, but we're coming to a close, so we might have to get back together for a part two. But I do want to give you the opportunity before we close out to allow the listeners to know if they want to reach you for your services or just to follow your journey. How can they do that? And we'll also link all these links in the description as always. But go ahead and let them know how they can follow your journey and to contact you for services.
absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at JO Chronicles. And also I have my own podcast, which is ArtArtistBiz, which you can also find on Instagram. And the Performing Arts School and Film and Television School that we run here in LA is called the American Arts Film and Television Academy. And you will find that at After LA. Please reach out. Looking forward to hearing from any of you young ladies out there.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, we thank you so much, Jessica, for coming and sharing your story with us. I feel your power, I feel your passion, and I listen. I'm ready for another conversation. We're gonna have to have one because I don't think it was enough. But we thank
I'm
everyone once
excited.
again. We thank everyone once again for tuning in. This is Made to Dream. I'm your host, Maya Chanel, and we'll see you next time.